Hello, everyone. Welcome to our CoinFLEX AMA. We are taking a bunch of questions we received from the Telegram and various locations, and we're going to be answering them today on a YouTube video here with myself and Sudhu, my co-founder. We wanted to basically answer as many questions as possible in an alternative format to the Telegram because many people are going through it and scrolling and might prefer this alternative format. And so we're trying to get this out in order to help people think about the restructuring proposal, think about how to vote, think about what all of this means, and just give more clarity to the market. So without further ado, I'll let Sudhu take the first question.
So obviously one of the most frequent questions here has been, what are CFV tokens? CFV are CoinFLEX vote tokens, and they are used to cast votes in the CoinFLEX restructuring proposal, which has been presented yesterday, and for any revised proposals that may come down as well. They've been issued to CoinFLEX users pro rata on their locked asset balances and need to be withdrawn to each of the user's own personal MetaMask wallets before the vote begins on Sunday, September the 25th at 8 a.m. UTC. This is extremely important because the way the snapshot.org works is that you have to have your vote tokens within your MetaMask before the proposal goes up. So the deadline is Sunday, September the 25th at 8 a.m. UTC to get it into MetaMask and cast your votes.
So I'll take the next one. Voting is only for people with CFV tokens. If we have balances in USDC, are we eligible to vote? So basically, the CFV tokens have been issued to any user holding a locked balance. So any user holding a balance at the time CoinFLEX ran into all these issues has been issued CFV on a $1 to $1 locked basis. So if you have 50,000 USDC locked in your account, you'll receive 50,000 CFV tokens. And if you have $100 worth of crypto, at the time of the snapshot, we issued the CFV tokens, you'll get CFV tokens related to your crypto as well. And again, these need to be withdrawn before Sunday, 8 a.m. UTC time.
The next question we had was, will small BCH balances be converted to CFV? If you hold any amount of BCH on the Smart Bch network, you'll be able to participate in the vote. There is no qualifying minimum.
The next question is, do CoinFLEX CFV withdrawals take some time? It's very similar to any other asset. On average, we're processing these withdrawals within 5 minutes of a user placing the withdrawal. If you are seeing a delay, just wait a few minutes. It's also important that you add the contract address to your MetaMask. CFV isn't something like USDC, which will just automatically show up in MetaMask. You'll need to add the contract address, and you can find that on our blog in the blog post titled CoinFLEX Vote Token Issuance and Next Steps.
Next question says, the 75% threshold for voting, is it across all votes or amongst all possible votes? I mean, if 30% doesn't vote, are we stuck? It is actually 75% in the affirmative of the votes that are cast. So any abstentions or anyone who doesn't vote does not count towards the 75% limit. So to be clear, it's 75% of all votes that are cast that need to be in the affirmative.
The next question is, I guess locked BCH on the CoinFLEX platform and FlexUSD on the CoinFLEX platform will vote via CFV, but off exchange, what we'll call on-chain FlexUSD or SPCH can vote directly. And so this is correct. Anyone with any type of balance, whether it's FlexUSD, USDC, crypto on the CoinFLEX platform will be issued CFV. Anyone with tokens relating to CoinFLEX that are on-chain, so for example, Smart Bch, BCH, FlexUSD on either ETH or the BCH network will be voting differently without CFV. So for example, BCH holders on Smart Bch will receive CFV BCH, and they will receive that simply by adding the contract address. So if you add the contract address and you're holding BCH on the Smart Bch network, you'll instantly see the balances that will just show up in your account. And then if you're holding FlexUSD on either the Ethereum network or the Smart Bch network, you will be able to vote with those FlexUSD directly.
Do we need ETH gas for voting? No, you don't. You don't need ETH. Snapshot.org allows token holders to vote without gas. There's no cost to withdrawing it from your CoinFLEX wallet. There is no cost for using to vote. And so you don't have to load ETH into your MetaMask for this purpose.
So the next question is, many accounts are anonymous. How will that work? So in order to register for the composite, especially the shares, you will need to provide a passport and a proof of address. So this is just simply a requirement of the Seychelles law. The documents will be kept confidentially by us and the law firm who's the trustee of the trust. That is a requirement for getting the distribution of shares.
The next question we have is, I came to think of them as a form of special voting shares. They may occur in TradFi markets, but that's probably not a proper comparison, right? That's correct. These are actually not voting shares in terms of ownership of equity. They're really a representation for the voting of the reorganization proposal. So it's a one-off use of these tokens. And once the proposal has been voted through or a revised proposal has been voted through, these tokens will not be usable anymore and have zero value. We will at a later stage talk about a new set of tokens around governance and managing the business and having your say, but we'll come back to that thereafter.
So people still have FlexUSD on SLP. Can they at least deposit those? So as we announced in May, CoinFLEX is deprecating support for SLP completely, and everyone's been advised to deposit FlexUSD SLP tokens on the platform. If the tokens were deposited before the cutoff time, they'll be included in the CFV issuance. If they're deposited after the cutoff time, it's a much longer manual process, and we can't make any guarantees.
The next question says, can somebody please clarify what this section means? And the section's really around the creditor allocation and the dollar number of 900,000K. Well, basically, large creditors who have claims of greater than $900,000 will be getting shares directly in the new holding company cap table or share registry. As we have many small creditors, it would not be feasible to have each of their holdings directly in the new company. As such, we will also be establishing a trust entity, which will be owned and managed by a Seychelles law firm, through which the smaller creditors will indirectly hold their interests in the new holding company of CoinFLEX. Both routes will ultimately have the same economic benefits for all creditors. There is no difference.
Yeah, I think it's really important there. Some people thought that if you're holding less than $900,000 of deposits on CoinFLEX, you're not going to get shares in the new company. And yeah, that's absolutely not correct. You'll get the same economic benefits as someone who's holding shares directly on the cap table. So it's just for admin purposes. The next question is, so will the CFV votes be representative of the entire firm's reorg equity? And so really, a CFV vote is voting yes or no on the proposal and the term sheet. The set of depositors, the set of creditors that gets finalized when we do the final distribution will actually be a slightly different distribution simply because crypto prices will have moved around. So the denominator will have changed very slightly. But really, if you're voting with your CFV tokens, you are voting for the reorganization of the business.
And then we have a series of questions around Smart Bch. Will SBCH be redeemable one-for-one for BCH using the same CoinFLEX bridge or using a new bridge? It'll be under a new bridge. We have an agreement in principle with the Smart Bch Alliance, and they will be in charge of this new bridge.
Is the SBCH FlexUSD, so FlexUSD on SEP20, usable for voting or only if it has been deposited into CoinFLEX? So it's usable for voting directly, even when it's held on chain, and you don't have to deposit it to CoinFLEX in order to use it to vote.
What should I do if I have Smart Bch? Do I have to do anything, or do I just have to wait for the new gate to open? Will I get my tokens? You will have to wait for the new gate to open, and that will happen once the creditors approve the reorganization proposal and the court approves the scheme of arrangement. You will then get a one-to-one BCH to Smart Bch conversion via the Smart Bch Alliance bridge, once that gets finalized, signed, and approved.
Is the Smart Bch Alliance part of those creditors who agreed to this proposal? They have agreed to the proposal, but they're not yet a creditor. They'll become a creditor upon the proposal being accepted.
The next question is really around, can we use the CoinFLEX bridge to go from BCH to Smart Bch or vice versa, or withdraw onto the network? The answer is no. None of these options are available at the moment. You will have to wait for the new bridge, unfortunately.
So the next question is, I hold a lot of FlexUSD on the Smart Bch chain. What do I do now? And the answer is you can use that FlexUSD to vote for the restructuring proposal. As long as you're holding it in MetaMask, on Sunday, the voting will open for that proposal. and you'll have until early Seychelles morning on Tuesday to vote on that proposal. The voting closes at 4 a.m. UTC time on Tuesday.
Then we have a couple of questions around FlexDAO and FlexCoins role in the new CoinFLEX. What will happen to FlexDAO then? Well, FlexDAO will continue to get all these rewards as per what is going on currently and previously, and will also form part of the future of CoinFLEX. Its exact role is something we will be discussing with the community and all the new shareholders once we get through this voting and subsequent legal matters.
And the next question is, so there's no kind of added power for Flex stakers. And what I would say is really there's not any change given to Flex. We still want Flex to have, largely the same role. What we're now going to have is effectively two types of communities, Flex holders and a much more expanded group of shareholders.
The next question is, so what happens to Flex coins? I understand they don't count for voting, but what do they classify as? Are they shares? Are they becoming worthless because of what's going on right now around the new issuance of equity? Will they keep some form of value? Great question. FlexCoin remains exactly the same as they were previously. We always had equity and we always had FlexCoin. Nothing changes. They will continue to be separate. If the restructuring plan is approved by creditors, then the equity cap table will be changing, with some shareholders getting wiped out, some staying, and a bunch of new shareholders joining. But FlexCoin will continue to power CoinFLEX and get all the same tokenomics as per the white paper.
And the next question is, what happens if I have FlexCoin staked? Does anything happen to these? Will the FlexCoins remain as is? And nothing happens to them. They will remain as is.
And then we have about 5 questions around the composite and the tradable markets of locked assets. What will creditors get as part of the CoinFLEX composite? Well, creditors will basically get, as part of the composite, a percentage of USD that they can withdraw, RV/USD tokens, and equity.
And the next question is, when will the CoinFLEX composite be distributed? So the next step is the vote to start. The step after that is the vote to end on Tuesday. And then the next step after that is the judge and the courts to review the vote and the term sheet, and then come to a finalization of approving that and putting us out of restructuring. And then everyone will get the composite.
The next question says, what is the estimate for opening markets for locked assets? No exact estimate here, but once the voting is in the affirmative, hopefully on Tuesday, we will be opening up trading of locked assets because everyone will have all the same information. You have the balance sheet, which we just published this evening, the composite assets, and the vote result. And so we will look to open up the trading of locked assets next week. As for the kind of opening of the locked assets from your balances, that will be once the restructuring is approved by the court.
It's been something we've really wanted to do. We're very excited about doing, because trading locked assets both allows for people to exit and enter. We have people on the sidelines that are kind of interested in everything that's occurring and interested in potentially buying equity or the rights to future composite assets at a discount from people that might want to have exit liquidity and might have the opposite view. And so I do think those markets are going to be important. There's no guarantee of how liquid they'll be, but I think they'll be interesting and useful and valuable markets. So the next question is, after distribution, will there be assets left over that will be sold to USDC on markets? Or more generally, at what point in the process will CoinFLEX sell assets into which markets? So post-restructuring, we will sell all client crypto assets and distribute the proceeds to all users, minus the amount for funding the business and litigation. Those assets will be sold into USDC, and they'll be sold in a judicious way, not in kind of just on the order book in a market order. They'll be sold either OTC or over some period of time. Selling them into USDC is an important step in distribution to customers.
The next question is, when will we have an estimate of the USDC distribution portion of the composite? We released the balance sheet this evening along with a guesstimation of what this would look like if you held say $1,000, and the percentage we think it looks around is anywhere between 8 to 12%. Now, bear in mind, this is based off today's crypto prices, and crypto could go down or it could go up. And so this number could change between now and when we get the official endorsement from the court to go ahead and dollarize.
And so this next question is on this topic for FlexUSD holders who are not interested in equity positions. Does CoinFLEX still have plans to facilitate trading markets for users wanting to add their position during the anticipated 6-week window post-vote and reorganization. So yes, as mentioned before, we definitely will be aiming to launch these locked asset markets. The other thing I would say is that 6-week window is an estimate. If we can have court approval sooner than that, it'll be sooner than that, but it is an estimate.
Then we have a question around dollarization. Coin prices for the dollarization are today's prices, right? Correct? Actually, there are two dollarization related things. We're using today's prices as a guesstimate of your balances to issue CFV, but we have actually not sold your assets at this point because that requires the creditors approving the term sheet, which includes dollarization, and also the courts approving the reorganization. The actual dollarization of assets will happen once the court gives a rubber stamp that everything is correctly done. Today's dollarization is really an estimate using today's prices, using your balances to issue CFV tokens.
And the next question is there expected to be a haircut if all in USDC, if in Flex tokens and everything? Yeah, so this is an interesting question. So the way I understand this question is there a haircut if I lost $1,000? Am I getting $1,000 worth of value back, or am I getting less than that? What's the percentage less than that? And that is really actually quite subjective because it depends on how you value RVUSD in the shares. You know, let's say it's 12% USDC, that I think anyone would value at par, worth, 12 cents, 1-to-1 with the dollar. But RVUSD is going to have its own markets. It's going to have its own price. That will be determined by the market. And if we're successful, we'll redeem that for $1 minus legal fees. The shares will also, in the same way, have their own subjective price. And so we will do everything we can to make the shares worth as much as possible. We will do everything we can to facilitate secondary liquidity of those shares. And we'll do everything we can, to build back the business. But both are subjective. And so some people might see, the distribution as worth vastly less than $1,000. Some might see it as worth $1,000 or more than $1,000. Time will tell what happens effectively.
And the final question we have, when and where will the balance sheet be published? The balance sheet was published this evening. You can see it on our blog post and also on the investor portal, which is within your dashboard.
Thank you so much for listening to this video, and also to everyone who asked these questions on Telegram and other channels. Thank you for asking these questions. We will, as we have been, continue to make ourselves available to the general public, to everyone, to our valued creditors, who will hopefully soon be becoming our valued shareholders. We'll continue to do things like this. We'll be posting as much updates as possible in blog posts and financial updates as well on the investor portal. So thank you for watching this video.